I'm Alan Lavender, and I work for Stay Ahead Training in London. And apologies if anybody can hear builders in the background during this. I can't hear them now, but I tend to think it wouldn't be the same delivering without them, because they're building Crossrail next to our office for months now, and I take a day off, come down to Ashford, do this. Next door's being gutted. So apologies about the building, the banging, and all that sort of stuff. First off, I grew the beard for the event, but I used an old profile pic rather cunningly, where I had it before. In between, I shaved it off to get my proper job. So now I've been in my proper job for long enough, I'll maybe keep the new baby beard. Second, the title. Now I'll scoot along to this little bookshelf. The title is a bit of a pun on these kind of JavaScript books that you get, like JavaScript, The Good Parts, which is the third from the right there. That's written by Dougie Crockford, who kind of wrote JavaScript in the first place. And there's all sorts of these kind of titles. So I've called it JS Calendars the long way, because it's a long way around. What is the short way? The short way is using Google Calendars, but we don't do that, do we? Because we want to write something from scratch. And by the way, this guy here, if everybody can see Eric Elliott there, he's a fantastic guy to read about JavaScript if you ever want to develop it yourself and learn it. He actually did every course he sells, he gives one away to end homelessness in his city in America. I forget where it is, but somewhere on the West Coast, I think. So he's a cool dude, and he knows a lot about the language, much more than me, obviously. And thirdly, the app. The app that I'm introducing is called JS Calendars. And where is it? Here it is. This is it. This is my version. I'll just get rid of DevTools. It's based on Google Calendars, and you basically click in, enter a description, and it saves it to the DOM, and it redraws it, and all these cells are added dynamically as JavaScript populates the page. This is an MVP. It's not a working project. It's not production. It's done as a teaching tool, and it's done to show the stages that you go through in designing a piece of software, and it's all done by one-man bands. So realistically, in real life, it'll probably be done by a team of people. Obviously, Google have a lot of people working on their stuff, and not just me. It's being revised and added to every day. I'll show you the Google Calendars for those people that don't use it or know it. It's over here. This is Google Calendars. This is February, and basically it's the same functionality as mine. You click in, you add an event, and it adds it to the DOM. Now, that's the functionality that I wanted in mind. That's the functionality that I've achieved in a few iterations. But basically, there's a hell of a lot more that goes on in the Google stuff. We won't go into that, but it would go on in the next iterations, and it would try and be more and more like the finished product. They can drag out dates along a certain amount of time. They can automatically add stuff when you book a flight. They have presumably RESTful APIs and stuff like that that are linked into EasyJet, Ryanair, all that kind of stuff. They have a little thumbnail calendar panel there. You can have a week view. You can have a month view. All those things you cannot do in my app, but you've got the basic functionality. So basically, Google Calendars, I rely on them now for everything I do. They're like Filofax in the 1980s. Anybody remember that? And let's have a look. What you would need to do is, if anybody's got a laptop with them and they would like to follow along, I will give out the code. The code is at tinyurl.com/battlingbeards. Okay. So everybody's got that. That's the code. And the live app is at don't panic .website/com, COAM, as in campaign against living miserably. So you can either follow along live with the last version that I've got, or you can get all the versions from the Google Drive, which is shared on the tiny URL. It's funny feedback this, actually, because I've been watching all morning, and of course you know what's going on in the room and stuff like that, and now I'm live, I can't hear Jack. So is everybody out there? Is everybody actually listening? Yeah? Great, thanks, that's good. Okay,
yeah, we're here.
Yeah, it's odd not getting the feedback, you know. So what we'll do is we'll go to the first iteration of this when I decided to use it as a teaching tool, and it looks like that. Yeah, there's nothing there. We'll look in the code. There's basically 3 divs on the page. I thought, well, you're going to need something to pick a date, you're going to need something to enter a description, and you're going to need a frame to display the calendar grid in. So you're going to need 3 things. If we go into the JavaScript for that, there's no CSS at the moment. I've got 5 functions, just stubs, just function stubs, nothing in them, just comments, and 3 global variables. So I thought, well, I'm going to need a date, I'm going to need a description, I'm going to need some kind of ID. I get rid of some of these in refactoring later on. I think I ended up with 3 functions, and I've got 5 down here. So initialize calendar grid. I didn't do that till the last stage. I just worked with a static one, but that means that the JavaScript's going to draw all the HTML on the page, and you're not going to be kind of bunged up with a whole load of HTML. Get date from the user, display date, get description, display description. So 5 functions, and I figured that would just about do the job. Okay. So I'll just have a look at the Google again, actually, in DevTools, and I'll show you what happens. Excuse me, not meant to see that. Very complex program, that. Let's have a look. Yeah, when we refresh the page with a hard reload, if you just look at the little tabs and look at the animations that are going on as the DOM draws itself, you can see in purple. You can see the wee things in purple. I'll do it again. Yeah, so the wee things in purple, you can see items, you can see divs, you can see CSS properties like display none. You can see them changing. They're still redrawing, actually, as we speak. So that's the kind of functionality that I wanted. I didn't want just a static thing, you know. So on mine, on the final version, you can see. You can't see any of that, actually, because it's too quick, because there's not actually much going on. But if you look, these divs have been drawn, and that's great. I paused it in the debugger there, see? I put a breakpoint in the JavaScript, and at the moment it's just the days at the top that are drawing, and just the blanks, and they're the blanks where you can't get a day because it belongs to the previous month or the subsequent month. So populate grid hasn't actually happened, and then if I go into the JavaScript and I step over that breakpoint, bang, the whole calendar grid comes up. So it's drawn dynamically. That's what I wanted to happen. It doesn't happen until the last iteration, but you basically want to keep your HTML down to an absolute minimum. You want to put all the junk in the JavaScript and populate it dynamically. Okay. So we'll go back to the first iteration. That's it. It's just a blank page and method stubs, function stubs. Oops, sorry, Java method. Must keep the JavaScript function. That just tells me what I want to do. Now this is not an all singing or dancing step, but I believe that this is one of the most important steps in development, because if you've got a blank page, you haven't got anything to debug and you haven't got anything to go wrong. So it's a good stage to be at with a blank page. You very rarely get the blank page. You usually get legacy code, and you usually have to jump in, and as I say, what is it, developers spend like 80% of time reading other people's code and code about 2 valuable working lines a day, and that's good going. So if you've got a blank page, it's a good place to be. So the second stage, I'll just check my screen, see if there's, is there any questions after that sort of intro? Not difficult ones. Good, good. Okay, that's great. That's fine. Great. Okay. So we'll go on to the second stage. So it's looking more like the finished thing. There's lots of notes to me in the console, like this function's been reached or this been reached. You basically, I think you've got 4 dates. I just decided to go with 4 days for testing because I really couldn't be bothered testing 31. So if you want to put something in the 4th day, there's your entry, and bang, it goes into the 4th day. So I've got the basic functionality going. I'll actually jump into Sublime for this and show you the code because it's handier than looking in DevTools. So, oh yes, we've got a very big font. Now, how is the font size in Sublime at this? Can everybody see that? How's that looking? Because you can't see it now because I'm on the other screen. Is that readable? Okay, that's fine. That's thumbs up from Steph. So, so that's the code for the first iteration that we've seen. And we're on the second now. So I've just got my 3 divs there in the page. I've got no CSS yet on the first one, and I've got the 5 function stubs. So going on to the second one, I've got an option. I've got a select, HTML5 select, just choosing 1, 2, 3, and 4. This isn't going to be in the final thing. It's going to be when you click on the cell, but for testing, I'm just putting it in straight like this. So then we've got all the cells down here. You see, I've populated them manually. And ladies and gentlemen, if you ever see HTML like that, it's bad. Get rid of it. Generate it dynamically. So I know it's bad, and I'm doing it for testing. Right, but I'm only testing the first 4 of them. You can put something in 1, 2, 3, or 4. Okay, and then when you press the button, it triggers this function, get description. So we'll go on to step 2. What I do, yeah. So this is my get description function at the moment. I wonder how deeply to go into this actually, because what I should do is I'm going to scoot back to the main screen where I can see your comments, and I would ask how many people in the room develop in JavaScript. Okay, that's fine. Because if there were no hands, then I would skip a lot of that, you know. But it's pretty basic stuff. You guys will probably know most of the thing. I would like to point out that I'm not a developer, I'm a trainer. So, I mean, the first few presentations, I was completely in awe of everybody. So I expect that for the JavaScript developers, it'll be water off a duck's back. But this is designed as a teaching tool, as I said. So get description here. First thing I bung in is a console.log to make sure that the function's triggered, because that sounds stupid, but of course if you don't get your capitalization right in JavaScript, If you put it on the button and it's get description with a lowercase d, ain't going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. Even if it's brilliant code written in a function, it's not going to get triggered. So I always put a console log in at this stage to see that the blooming thing's working. And I've already declared event description up there. So here I'm assigning it to the value from the selector. And then I'm assigning date to the value. And I'm putting the unary operator in front of date to make sure it's treated as a number, because for those that don't program in JavaScript, it's weakly typed language. So it's what they call duck typing. Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, probably is a duck. So if you put in a thing from a selector in the DOM, then it's probably going to be a string because it's characters. So it's not a string, so you want to tell it it's a number. So this is a kind of handy way of doing that in JavaScript. I'm also logging it out at that point just to make sure I've got it. Okay, so these console.logs have nothing to do with the functionality of the thing. Now in here, there's a little encapsulated function. This is called an iffy, immediately invoking function expression, and this means it'll run whenever the code reaches it. So whenever that line gets executed, this will run. It's anonymous, and it's just assigning the event description that the users put in that we've got up there. It's just assigning it to this ID date on the page. Where is date? Date. It's there on the page somewhere. Okay, it's there. No, it's not on the page. It's a variable. There it is. Okay, so that's taking the event description and that's putting it in date up there. And there's another little console.log for myself. So this one here, display description, this is completely out of it at the moment. We haven't actually done anything with that. The function getDate that we had originally in the skeleton code there, in the pseudocode, we have a getDate there. GetDate, I actually wrote it in getDate, and I thought, hang on a sec, there's no point in having two separate functions. You could just make that anonymous within the get description, because you're going to have to do it every time you get a description. You have to get a date. So in it went, and that's refactored immediately. You've got one thing that you don't need anymore. The one at the top, Initialized calendar grid, that's going to be left till the last stage. And I'm testing with a hard-coded date there of 44. I don't know why it's 44, but anyway. So we'll go on to step 3. Right, we'll see what step 3 looks like. Any questions after step 2? Not too hard ones, especially from the JavaScript devs, please. How am I doing for time, actually? What is the time? Should be about halfway through now. 2/3 of the way through. Okay. Right. Now, step 3. Step 3. I'll reload that. Right. Put some CSS on at this point. I had some CSS on at the last one just to get the size of the cells. Actually, I should show you that. I should show you the CSS in sequence. Step 2 was the first one that I had CSS for. So I just put calendar cell, inline block, width 12%, so you get 7 days on a page, height, background, blah, 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 a bit of margin and padding. Write some pseudo states maybe for selected and hover. So haven't done it yet. Haven't done a hover on that. They're all grey. They're all the same grey color. But on this version that we've just seen, there's a hover state. And there's also a new class, calendar cell selected, and it changes the background color. So if we go back to the thing, you still can't click on it. You still got to choose the date manually. But if you choose from those and you enter your thing, it changes the CSS. It changes the text to white, and it changes the background color. So it's the same as a hover color. So I figured that was kind of logical. Of course, they've got lots more colors in Google, and one of the extensions of this would be to detect substrings in your event description. So if you said dentist, you can have it come in calming blue or bright screaming red, whichever you thought. You could color code health appointments with an array of substrings if it matched. You could color code flights, travel arrangements, that sort of thing. You could automatically pick it up and color code it. But that's way down the line. So there we are. We can hover over our cells and we can choose a cell. We still can't click on them. They haven't got any event listeners on the cells. So we can set them manually, but we can't click on them. Okay, and then you want to get rid of this stuff. You don't want this stuff at the top. That's just for testing. You want just a nice calendar grid. So our final version. You do that. There is a little glitch on here, which I'll point out. The final version, which I was changing this morning to do April's date, and had it set for December, and I put in April, and I'd come up with this great little funky bit of code that I'll show you to change the dates. There are no enums as such in JavaScript, or there won't be until the next version. That will be a short static list of final variables, like days of the week, days of the month, sort of thing. So you have to get around it using constants in JavaScript. And I'd got around this, and I thought, this is great, this is good, this is happening. I just have to get up, have a shower, get onto Steph, make sure I've got headphones on, and change it to April. So I changed it to April, and it fell down. Didn't work. The only 2 months that are working are February and December. So I'll be honest with that. I'll share that with you because I think it's an important thing. So I don't know why they're working. I didn't have time to fix it. But a clue to why they're not working is the layout of the divs. You notice Saturdays come down there because we're in DevTools. And if I pop it out there, see Wednesday becomes the first of the month, and at a smaller screen size, Thursday becomes the first of the month. So it's to do with the responsiveness of the design, or the lack of responsiveness, I should say, because it's just an MVP. So something's happening there with the first of the month, and I couldn't get April to code, so I put it in February instead. But that's basically what this is doing. This is working out where the first of the month is. And also it's got a click functionality. Like if you click on the date, an alert box comes up now to take, well, actually it's a prompt box to take the description. And then when you OK that, it adds it to the thing, changes the CSS, and changes the background color of the cell. So that's much more like the Google Calendars functionality. You can go and do that. And it does populate the month in the correct place, the correct start day, if it's full screen, Wednesday. And you can look at the HTML changing, or we showed you that. Yeah. See, now it's populated the whole thing dynamically. And if I did a hard reload and it stops at that, the first part of this function, there's two for loops wrapped up in the Initialized calendar grid function, which has been written for this, and it wasn't written for the other ones. So it's you see, DevTools shows you that the variables that you've actually passed in, it shows you the variable values, which is absolutely brilliant, actually. Very handy. And you're passing in the month and the start day, And the first for loop creates the blanks, and they have a different CSS, they're grayed out, and they're not clickable. And the second for loop, which must come after the first one in that order, it creates the actual calendar cells, and it creates them for I equals naught, I is less than month. So it creates the right number of days in the month, and it also, the start day has been passed in there. So actually, that's probably what I probably need to pass in the start day to the second for loop as well. But there's the get description. That hasn't changed, but this has been written and all that stuff's going on, and I'll show you in the code. Step 4, initialize calendar grid, February 4. So February is the month, and it starts on the 4th day. That's not 0 indexed. I've just put Sunday as 1. Wrong JavaScript. This is the right JavaScript. Yeah, so I've got 2 more variables, month, start day. And the way I've done it may not be the best way, but rather than declaring variables for every month and assigning the length, I've just said you've got a short month, you've got a medium month, you've got a long month, they're constants, and I'm assigning the various different months to each type of constant. And I need that because I can never remember that 30 days hath January sort of thing, just can't remember it at all. So that's then passed in, and that's that, and that's they will now start. You see, you can't see this in the HTML code because it's only got the row at the top that says Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and etc. It hasn't got anything underneath that. It's all populated dynamically. So where is it? Here it is. I'll step over the breakpoint, and there it goes. And that means, if you look at the HTML now, everything's there, and we didn't have to draw the ugly thing. And my IDs, what I've done is I've just used a number for the ID, and then that means that the JavaScript can find it. Okay, and it's an actual number. It's treated as a number, not a string. Okay. Well, as a close, I would, what am I doing for time? Yeah, 2 minutes. As a close, I would just say thank you to Steph for all of this and this hard work, and thank you everybody for coming and supporting it. Suicide prevention is a very, very important thing for me. It's my voluntary work, really. I'm a co-director of a social enterprise called Depression Hurts, and me and my partner Nora have been helping people on and off ad hoc basis since 2011. We made a film, we have a website, we run several social media accounts, and this is the first thing that I've actually seen where I can combine IT and campaigning against suicide.